Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's with happiness I see there's still people joining this session. That's really good. The ring keeps beeping. That's good. I'll be talking today about IoT in the first place, but how will that work with AI and cloud versus edge computing as well. So before we jump into more detail, let's see how tomorrow looks like in figures. So we see, according to the Business School of London, we see that at least nearly 1/3 of companies or enterprises are investing up to 50 million in AI. AI meaning cognitive services, NLP, NLU, along with machine learning. We see also that the number of devices connected to the network will rise up to 25 billion, according to Norton. So that's a whole and a big data set coming in our way in the future. And we see that today there is already up to 1 billion gigabytes being generated by IoT devices, being then connected by communicating with themselves or with the cloud. So these numbers show that there will be definitely an increasingly large amount of machine-generated unstructured data, but also human-oriented unstructured data. And that's exactly where artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms can help taking some sense out of these big chunks of data that are coming our way. Now, for us to understand how tomorrow will be, it's also good to know where we are today. So today we have a whole bunch of devices, being smart meters, smartphones, among many others, that communicate through networks like IoT, cellular networks, LoRaWAN, Sigfox, among others, into a centralized IoT platform. Now, it is this platform that takes this whole data, analyzes it, processes it, and takes insights from it, this with the help of AI. But the devices are not yet smart enough to take decisions by themselves, so they rely on this cloud or this platform to tell them what to do. Now, I think that in what comes next, perhaps not tomorrow in the sense of the word, but definitely in the coming years, we will see devices not only communicating with a centralized platform, but communicating with themselves. I see that devices will become, let me see if I can move. All right. I see devices communicating more and more with each other, and specifically and potentially using the 5G network. So, sorry, okay. We will see faster connectivity. We will see devices communicating data more in real time. We will see basically the whole world more connected. We will have these more complex devices like your car communicating with an electrical charger. We will see it communicating with traffic networks or even with surveillance cameras, being it either peer-to-peer or through a centralized platform, but definitely the paradigm will change. Now, this will bring much more data being generated, as we see, from these devices, but also from the people interacting with these devices. So it's inevitable that the things we've seen today communicating with the cloud, these IoT things, these smart meters, they will evolve into something much more complex, something much more autonomous. And with that, the AI and machine learning algorithms that we've seen previously running more frequently in the cloud, in these centralized platforms, will inevitably move into the devices themselves and be put or at the edge. So as I said, today we see these devices communicating with the cloud, they're sending this data, telemetry mostly. The clouds or these platforms, they do all the computing or most of the computing. They run this AI and machine learning algorithms, and they implement the business logic all at the cloud. These will then, these new insights will then tell devices what to do. But in the future, what we will see is this AI will move from the cloud to be closer to the device, so to be at the edge. The things will be processing between, or the processing power will be shared between the cloud itself, but also the things. So they'll become clever and much more complex. So we see IoT not only being about smart meters and smart fans and among many other devices, but we will see autonomous vehicles, smart cars, which by themselves drive into smart cities, smart buildings, and a digital twin that mimics the behavior of physical things into a digital twin in the virtual world. But how do we take sense of all of this data coming, and how does AI come into play? So I see that technologies like deep learning or unsupervised machine learning will evolve much more than they have been evolving till today. This will allow us to discover and learn hidden patterns and even data labeling and data grouping without even the need of human intervention. We will see technologies like computer vision and mixed reality being more and more immersive. So there will be a deeper experience between the physical and the virtual world. There will be, these algorithms will be running at the edge, so they'll be also faster. And we'll see the rise of technologies like voice AI that comprises NLP, so natural language processing, along with vision AI that includes object detection and visual recognitions of objects and persons, also evolving as we keep more and more samplings and data coming from these devices. But we will also see the rise of something new that is not only IoT, but is the artificial intelligence of things. Now, artificial intelligence of things is applying AI, artificial intelligence, to the edge. So this gives the device or the things the capability of processing, acquiring, and understanding the data, and then decide what to do. So it's a change of this centralized cloud platform that tells devices what to do. It's a change to the devices being smarter and smarter and being more autonomous and being more capable of taking decisions by themselves in what is foreseen to become a more connected world as we as it is coming in the next years. Now, but how will this affect the world we see today? How will this impact people's lives? I have identified three, I would say, key verticals, but there are many more, and we will talk more about this regarding healthcare. But definitely the smart industry vertical, it is already impacted, but will become more and more impacted. So we will have real-time data analytics. We will have even factory real-time orchestrations, so devices can sample data, communicate faster, and take decisions by themselves faster without relying on the cloud. You will see AI algorithms allowing us to have predictive maintenance more and more accurate, along with field services taking leverage of augmented reality to help the factory workers to troubleshoot equipment at the factory line and being guided through that process in a very intuitive and immersive way. Smart cities definitely will see a big rise in terms of smart parking, in terms of smart lighting. So the public lighting can be easily controlled through centralized and decentralized platforms. We will see smart irrigation, smart buildings, and even air quality control. All of these together due to the rise of these new technologies allowing AI to take sense out of these many images of data being gathered across the city. Smart homes will also be a vertical that will be greatly impacted. So we already have some connected appliances, but this will be we will have more and more of our standard day-to-day appliances being connected to the cloud, and they will become more complex. So they can evolve actually to some sort of smart home robots. And this can go on, and from smart speakers to even smart climate control. That's all. So I see IoT, AI, and big data all combined together, and being empowered by for instance, 5G technology, where we have much more data being connected between these devices in the cloud. And AI will be very relevant in terms of understanding that data and taking some sense out of it to produce insights that will help all these verticals to even build new use cases, to keep optimizing the way they already operate. That's all. Thank you very much. You are on mute, Penkash, I think.
This is the quote of the year, right? You're on mute. So thanks, João. Quite interesting. It's definitely the IoT of tomorrow. It's important for I think all the detail and the data that you provided is food for thought. So let me just give a couple of minutes, guys. If you have any questions, please write it down in your chat box, and João will be happy to answer. Was it that clear for everyone?
It was a very clear presentation, Prakash, that's why.
Oh, here we are. Rebecca Silva. Where are the most jobs coming up?
All right. Well, I think most of the jobs will be coming exactly with the computation that will be required to be done at the edge. Because we've seen a transition between the AI and all the algorithms that already run in the cloud. They will have to be, of course, depending on the use case, they will have to somehow be ported into the edge by itself. Now, at the edge, the challenges are way different. We will have to handle with memory, even with processing power, but still we would like to have the same kind of artificial intelligence that we have on the cloud being applied at the edge. So I see lots of jobs coming from implementing new ways of doing artificial intelligence at the edge, but also I'll see the artificial intelligence continue growing at the cloud, being smarter, finding new ways to correlate data in an unsupervised way, so that you can keep building these new insights that help you either operate your business in a clever way, and that comes with cost optimization and high rentability. But also optimizations at the device level, when the devices will have to be clever enough, and will have to understand and process all of these data so that they can act by themselves. Those are the two main points where I see most of the jobs coming in the coming years.
Okay, so well, actually we have more questions. Also from Rebecca Silva, how has the digital transformation of business via COVID impacted the mobile world?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think with COVID, there was a very urgent need to be able to control your business remotely, and that definitely powered the way devices, things, even persons are connected to your enterprises and actually to the processes, either being in industry or any other place to work. So I think COVID it potentially, or it increased the need of companies to move from or to a more digitalized version of their business. And IoT definitely impacted that. And we've seen that happening with, for instance, the vaccines distribution, where the supply chain and even the cold chain had to be monitorized very closely to make sure that the vaccines were delivered in the right conditions to be consumed. So that's a very clear example where IoT have impacted the way we tackled COVID and the pandemic in a whole.
Okay. João, we still have a couple more. We have a couple more questions. Let's try to be fast because we have a schedule to
sure.
keep. And you can answer one more. Thomas Tojo, I believe. Will 5G be a suitable communication method for smart factories, considering the signal distortion in factory floor?
Well, I think we are still yet to understand that. So 5G is quite new for all of us, even for smart industry. That it is quite new. I have seen some applications of that in real use case scenarios, but industry today is connected in a very different way. So most of it is through cable or Wi-Fi, not through 5G. I think 5G will bring the capability to have more things connected, but also real-time data being connected as well. So you have much more data, which allows us to build new use cases around that. But that is a very good question, and I think we will see how it will be actually, and perhaps Yuly and Luis have an answer for that in the next session regarding 5G.
Yeah. Okay, so Munim, Sundus, and Olivier, we will answer your questions at the end, and not just Sajid also. We will answer your questions at the end. We need to continue, otherwise we will lose time. Still, so now I'm going to invite Yuly Endo and from InnoWave, the Pre Sales InnoWave, and Luis Lamela. Thank you for your presence here, for confirming your presence and being and helping us out in this session. We will actually hopefully answer to some of the questions we have from the previous session. So please, Yuly and Luis, can you take control, please?
For sure. First of all, thank you very much for being here and enjoying this time in this webinar with all of you guys. Thank you very much. I would like just to say a few words before we start with the presentation already, and say that it was not a plan and combining with Tojo in order to have the link from the first presentation to this one, but hopefully we will have some answers during this presentation, short presentation, but intense. And the idea is just that, in order to show and have the opportunity to explore and share with you our experience and developing solutions that use this 5G and IoT together. Definitely 5G is one of the cornerstone in this digital transformation that we are passing through. And that's why we invited us, Luis Lamela from Altice, which plays a key role in this market turn point, definitely. So let's have, and thank you very much, Luis, again, to share with us your vision and your experience in this team that is very, very impact in our life, and especially in IoT. So go forward, Luis. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Yuly and InnoWave, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Now, 5G, of course, as you know, is a tremendously vast and complex matter. So I'll just fly through a couple of slides just to set context, because what I think it's interesting is in hearing questions and trying to address them together, and maybe bringing some clarity for some specific topic. So I'll jump right in. So you probably hear, and this is an example from Altice, different demos using 5G technology, holograms, video transmissions, autonomous vehicles, etc., etc. These are just a few examples that we've done in Altice to show some of the capabilities of the service, but many more are possible. Now, 5G, of course, is the 5th generation of mobile technology. And we can think of just an add-on for other technologies. But the reality is that 5G means a fundamental paradigm shift in how the network is built and what kind of services it supports. So there are tremendous changes from 4G, and what we are trying to explain here is that these new features of 5G open up new IoT use cases, things that were not technically possible before, or they might be technically possible, but they were not economically viable. So that's one of the big changes in 5G. I'm realizing that this slide is slightly misaligned, but the main point here is that 5G is the first mobile network that is built to accommodate considerably different types of service. So there's essentially 3 flavors for 5G. The 5G that we're talking about today, that the operators are launching, unfortunately not yet in Portugal, but hopefully soon. It's about enhanced massive broadband. So it's basically the trend that's been going on since 2G, which is faster, more bits per second, essentially the same capabilities, but faster, gigabit per second per user. That's, let's say, the first flavor of 5G. Then we have, and João Cruz alluded to that, massive machine type communications. So this is what we have seen already from 4G, like narrowband IoT and LTE-M. These protocols will be incorporated in 5G, and they, of course, will be further developed. So they'll be more efficient, being able to carry more capacity to accommodate more users in a given area, to be more energy efficient, and to have higher speeds and capabilities. And third is the ultra reliable low latency communications. And this is something that we have not seen before on previous generations of the technology. This is about mission critical applications. This is about very low latency. This is about extremely high reliability, up to something like, and referring to what João talked before, replacing an Ethernet cable in a factory setting, for instance, providing the same level of reliability. So going forward, what are the tools that 5G brings us to develop interesting applications and applications that add value? Well, we have, first of all, we have new spectrum, more spectrum. So radioelectric spectrum is a limited resource. They don't build it anymore. So having more spectrum allocated to 5G is a major impact, because it will mean more capacity for the network overall. 5G will be a software-defined network. This means easier and faster configurations of the network to accommodate different use cases. It's a cloud-based technology. So the 5G core part of the network and even some parts of the radio are cloud-native applications, running on containers and such technology, so more flexibility and more scalability, which is also very important. Again, João mentioned this edge computing. It's a major difference. Today, on a traditional, let's say, 4G network, all the data need to travel from the user's device to the radio network to the central core network and back again to its destination. With 5G architectures, we'll be able to do local switching of the data. So meaning that we'll be able to have servers that are not far away from the end devices, they are much closer, so bringing more latency, less latency, bringing more speed, more security, and more reliability. Okay. Another thing is zero touch. The whole 5G architecture is configured for devices and applications to be able to use the services automatically, programmatically over APIs, etc. This last one is a thing more for operators, which is a unified transfer, which vastly simplifies the work of the network operator teams in managing the network. On the bottom line, there's a new radio protocol that's much more efficient. And this is, of course, means capacity, latency, etc. Core is based on network virtual functions. There's a new concept, which is network slicing. And this means that we will be able to configure virtual networks on top of the operator network and allocate resources to that virtual network. This means that we can finally configure a virtual network for a customer that can behave exactly like a dedicated network. And this resource reservation can go from the core to the transport and up to the radio. We can reserve megahertz specifically for a given customer, which is very important. The new IoT protocols, we mentioned about this, and of course, all this is made possible by the new 5G core architecture. And again, as you see, I'm flying over this. Please feel free to post your questions and we'll try to address them. And one aspect that is very important, 5G has generated tremendous expectations everywhere. So it's really important that we remain realistic in these expectations. So the 5G standard, it's actually a series of standardization releases. It has started with 3GPP, and these are the ugly graphics from 3GPP, the international entity that's in charge of defining the standards. 5G has officially started with release 15. Now release 16 is already here, but what I've mentioned in the previous slides will only be fully available on release 17. Because of the pandemic, the release process has been delayed. And what this means is that the 5G that in general the operators worldwide are launching, and it will happen the same in Portugal, is 5G that will support enhanced mobile broadband. So it means something like 4G, but faster. It will not bring yet all the other capacities and capabilities of 5G. This will come over time as new standard releases come out. The hardware and software vendors adopt those releases, and the operators feel confident with the maturity level of those implementations to put them on the network. So of course, this will vary from operator to operator. Some are more, let's say, risk tolerant. Others are more risk averse. So I think that in general, what we can wait for is that we will have the absolute minimum of 6 months between a new 3GPP standard release being approved and seeing the initial implementations on operators. For those operators that want to be, I would say, the bleeding edge, okay, large operators will wait a bit more until they are sure that the implementations are solid, are robust. So it could take up to 2 years from the standards process being closed until the service is available from large operators. Okay, this is to set everybody's expectations. So 5G has not arrived. 5G is arriving. Okay, the initial flavors are already here, not in Portugal, hopefully soon. And the full 5G set of services will arrive maybe in 2024 or something like this. Okay, so this is something important to remember. We already talked about this. 5G will support a number of services. These are just some, let's say, suggestions of new services that were difficult to implement before, and 5G will make them possible, or in some cases, easier. So I'll just talk briefly about one example, surveillance. Of course, we can do surveillance today with cabling, with Wi-Fi in some conditions. We can do it in 4G, yes. But what about the density? How many 4K cameras can we have doing surveillance in a small area? With 4G, not a lot. Maybe 2-3 cameras in a given network cell. 5G will mean that we'll be able to have tens, hundreds of cameras served by the same cell with high quality video. So we'll be able to have a lot more density in this case. One thing that we didn't talk a lot before, just to make a brief reference about this, is the private network. This is related to specific questions that were being asked. Will 5G work okay in factories? It's a difficult environment for radio, yes. What we are seeing is that companies are doing 5G private networks to make factories work, providing high reliability services inside the factories. And 5G has features specifically to address this, to ensure extremely high reliability, low latency, high security, high bandwidth applications for the factory. One of the ways of doing this is building a private network where all the network components can be inside the factory. Okay, so not needing to travel to the operator's data center, for instance. So these are just a few examples for you to know. Finally, I would leave with a closing note. Altice is very invested in the success of 5G, of course, and of the IoT community here in Portugal. We've been working very closely with InnoWave, I would say very successfully also. Altice has made available an open laboratory so that every Portuguese company that wants to understand 5G better, that wants to do testing, that needs some help in figuring out some configuration problem, you are welcome to come to our 5G lab and do your tests and have access to our specialists. And we want to help and contribute so that Portuguese companies really take full advantage of 5G and IoT technologies and build this IoT community in Portugal and make it a success. And I would close for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lamela, just to make an additional information concerning what you said about the private network, we here in InnoWave, we have already developed a pilot program, a POC program with a smart company in Greece, and they have implemented a private 5G network inside the manufacturer, and we develop all the IoT solution using augmented reality and so on. So that's something that we are doing now. and it's very aligned to what you have said.
Yes,
Okay.
what I noticed that factories typically want to have full control of their solutions, because the communication solutions are the backbone of the factory. If the network fails, the factory stops. So it's really important for them. I can give you also an example. This is something that we started doing in 4G, which is there's a Portuguese mine that's fully equipped with 4G. And today we have excavators working on the mine tunnels being remotely controlled by 4G, and reducing danger and increasing productivity in the mine. Now, we've done this in 4G maybe 3 years ago. It was available technology. 5G will enable us to provide more services, and they will be much easier to configure. So it's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We need to keep our time. So we have one question from Jan. Maybe both of you can answer this. With more IoT devices being part of our daily living condition, are there any concern for cybersecurity in place to protect it? Well, we are going to talk about cybersecurity, so probably what I suggest is we leave this. You may answer, but we can also have the cybersecurity expert answering this question. But please, by all means, let us hear your thoughts also.
Well, I think the answer is yes. Yes, there's many cybersecurity concerns, definitely. It's a brave new world. I hope the presentation about security will address some of the topics. But yes, what we're seeing with IoT and 5G will help is all these technologies having a more direct impact on our daily life, and critical stuff about our life. So definitely security is a major concern.
Yeah, but we'll have a lot more when I do my part. So let's move on, and we'll cover this subject later on.
So moving forward, I'm giving control to David Coutinho, who's the CEO of Gamification, of Gamifyou, the gamification company from InnoWave. David?
Thank you very much, Pankaj. Hello, everyone. So as Pankaj said, I'm head of Gamifyou, the gamification startup that we have here in InnoWave. I'm not the biggest expert in IoT, but IoT is a great world for us to explore also with gamification. So the idea here is to try to talk a little bit about how these two worlds intersect and how we can leverage each other's potential through gamification. So we have a couple of applications that we already tried. There's a lot more to come in the future. And this is also to let you guys think a little bit of how we can potentiate the use of IoT using gamification. So some examples that we've already saw and that are already in use are, for example, in the e-learning environment, in healthcare services, the home appliance automation, and the transportation industry, and so on. The use of gamification in these, so when you have a gamification platform that wants to enhance some kind of behavior from someone, you can basically just have your application interacting with the IoT devices that are out there, and enhance and make people interact with it the way that you want it to. Let me show you a bit more. So let me start by talking a little bit about gamification, because that's really what I know and what we've been doing here. So the way that we work is we have all these challenges, activities, and surveys and quizzes, which we enhance by giving points to people and then getting them to take rewards out of it. And then out of this, we also get a lot of customer information. We try to work those out to get customer insights and so on. The way that we've tried, or the way that we've scratched the surface of using IoT in order to enhance our challenges and activities, was mostly by using the beacons that we, in our Gamifyou system, we already have in place. So if you want, for example, if you're in a club and you want to introduce a gamification system where you want to get your attendees to go to a specific venue or to a specific football match or whatever, you can always have a beacon at the entrance and have people when they pass by getting the information that they're there and being awarded points for that. Obviously, we have other ways of gathering information like the QR codes and georeferencing, and we've been trying this part mostly with the beacons. I think there's a lot more that we can try to do, but mostly with the beacons, we've tried to enhance things like using public transportation. We have a project that it's live for quite a few years now in the city of Cascais, where they try to get the citizens to use more public transportation than their own vehicles. And the way that they do this is that they award points every time that anyone is using public transportation. And this is in Cascais. It's done also with a QR code, but with a beacon to make it sure that you're on the bus. We had a prototype that was proposed also for a city in Sweden, where they actually wanted to track the distances that the people were doing in the public transportation, and we were cross-referencing the beacons with the geo-referencing. And another use case that we have also with the city of Cascais is something that it's actually a project from them, which they called IREC. You guys can watch the video if you want. I guess you have to turn on the sounds there. I'm sorry, because the video is actually in Portuguese. This is a demonstration video from their project called IREC, but we use our platform in order to enhance the use of this IoT machine. I'm gonna put it on, but you guys have to turn on the video sound if you wanna hear to. This is more like an introduction video to their project, but I think you'll be able to see, and it shows a little bit this interaction that I'm talking about. I'll let you look into it. Okay, so basically this was just to show you guys one of the uses that we already have in place, where we actually have a current use case of an IoT device that's interacting with our gamification system. So for those of you that don't know Portuguese, and I'm sorry for the video being in Portuguese, they were just explaining how every time you go to this recycling machine, you just put in your waste, your plastic waste, and then you get awarded some points based on that. And the way that then the system works in Cascais at least is then with those points you can use them to do all these other activities that they have available for them in our platform. But this is basically here we're just scratching the surface of how we can enhance the use of any IoT device. So I think for us it's a very interesting world to explore. It will give us the potential to get a lot more ways to make our activities more dynamic and so on, and it will also give us a lot more information that we want to collect and then use to leverage the kind of knowledge that we have in our system about what the people are doing and so on. So yeah, that's I think that's basically it. I'm sorry, because about IoT, I don't have that much. I just wanted to give you a little bit about this touch about how anything that we can gamify, we will try to do it, and that is a big open door for us and for our future. So let me know if you have any ideas, because if you do, this is the most valuable part that we wish to take out of this, because we can certainly apply them in the future, in the near future, in the future to come.
Our next speaker is Rui Carvalho. Rui is an expert on cybersecurity, and he is the head of Dark Clarity, a company by InnoWave. It's cybersecurity by InnoWave, and Rui is going to tell us a little bit about cybersecurity in the IoT networks. So please carry on, Rui.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Thank you for being here. I'll try to be concise and quick, while trying to cover most of the information that I have prepared. So very quickly, Pankaj already mentioned, Dark Clarity is the cybersecurity company for InnoWave. We basically do specialization at Dark Clarity for IoT matters. So we got together a couple of years ago. We've decided that IoT is an area that really not too many entities are covering from a security perspective, and it's an area that we've developed some excellent skills and that we're taking forward to building on those skills to provide further services and products, as you will see going forward. Answering the question earlier, obviously IoT will and already is bringing some major challenges to security. There are many components that need to be evaluated at a further level. We feel that IoT in the first years, like so many other technologies, was implemented really not taking into consideration the security components. And therefore, what we are seeing is that a lot of the IoT networks that are out there are rather fragile in a lot of ways. Obviously, there are networks that are very well established. I'm not going to deny that, but overall, there are some that we feel need quite some work. So basically, some of the services that we provide, and this is, again, pretty much based on cybersecurity in general, but IoT requires a different dimension. So we go through the same steps as we would go for a normal network to establish an assessment, but then we need to go to a level, to the next level. And the next level is not only the applications, not only the servers, not only the components, but we need to evaluate also the boards, the physical components of each and every device that we are testing and we are evaluating. And again, over the last few years, IoT devices, a lot of the sensors are out there, a lot of the cameras, a lot of the other components have been developed by good manufacturers that have made some decent money, but again, security wasn't necessarily the biggest issue out there. And what we have seen over the last few years, and I do have a slide later on, is that it's now time for some of the criminals to explore some of those situations. And IoT, as you will agree for sure, is running a lot of different components. And if criminals can get into some of these networks, obviously it's a very, very concerning situation. So full service stack for IoT, differentiating with a physical evaluation of the components and the systems. Just to give you an idea of what we've been doing on the IoT space, we've been doing a lot of work and having a lot of fun, I must admit, doing a lot of stuff with set-top boxes for different operators. We've been doing a lot of work with the home gateways or the routers that most of these operators also put in people's homes. And we've taken it from there to situations where we evaluate sensors from anything, movement, temperature, the whole component, anything that has to do with an industrial environment and the maintenance of the industrial environment. The latest thing that we've been working on is something, again, that's been a lot of fun and a lot of quite a challenge, and that is with electrical car chargers, which obviously is a technology that has been growing over the last few years, but is expected to grow much, much more over the next few. So basically, taking it from here, I just wanted to kind of share something that you might know or not, but some of the situations that we are dealing with in the security perspective is pretty much some of the issues that we've been dealing with in time with other networks. Again, the difference is that other networks over the last few years, over the last few decades, have evolved in many, many ways in security. Obviously, there are still some issues, but we have to admit that when I started my career some time ago, security was not an issue in any IT network, and lately security has become a major issue. I think IoT security is turning that step right now. Again, it's been basically forgotten over the last few years. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, it's come to light, and how things need to, how criminals are acting, and how things need to evolve from there. So basically, I'm not going to go to read the slides. Obviously, all of the information is there, how the attacks are made, what type of scenarios are we seeing during those attacks, and basically how we deal with the situations are very much like we would with a normal network. The biggest challenge that we have and that we don't have with the other networks is dealing with specific IoT protocols. Just to give you a brief example, I mentioned the electrical car chargers. They speak a very specific language. It's called OCPP. It's a protocol specifically designed for car chargers. And obviously, it's a protocol that needs special attention. It's not very familiar to anyone. Fortunately, it's not familiar not to the security experts, but not very familiar to criminals in general. So in order to kind of defend and to understand the fragilities of the protocols, you need to study the protocol deeply, and you need to understand where it might or might not fail. Other than the protocols and the other components that are very specific to IoT, security is pretty much the same, except the complexity of the situation. What we've seen is a series of attacks, and these are just some of the major attacks that I decided to kind of describe, are attacks that become very, very concerning if we consider ourselves as a society. The latest one that you might have heard was a couple of months ago or a few months ago in the United States, in Florida concretely. And a guy was able to hack into the system and introduce a function that he would overdose the amount of sodium in the water, and the water was for distribution to the population. So all of a sudden it was detected, obviously, but it was after the cause, and some of the water had been contaminated with a high level of sodium. Obviously, unfortunately, nobody perished from it, and things were able to be controlled very quickly. But this is the type of threat that we've seen. We've seen things like hotel doors being hacked into. We've seen other situations. I'll leave this slide food for thought for those that want to explore some of these challenges further. We don't have the time to go into each and single one of them. So basically, what are we dealing with, and what are we positioning? It's very much like I said, the same systems with new challenges. And again, we go through every single component. We have to go through not only the servers, but every single perspective, and we need to deal with each component individually and understand exactly how the system works in itself. It's not your traditional system. It's not something that you have a whole bunch of users. You do have a whole bunch of users, but then you have a whole bunch of sensors or a whole bunch of machines or a whole bunch of different components, and each one needs to be evaluated properly, and each one needs to be understood on what fragilities it represents to the network as a whole and to the system as a whole. So basically, just to give you a perspective of what we feel are some of the challenges here, both from a community point of view and then from a manufacturer point of view. Obviously, we need to reinforce the IoT securities, and we need to look into further securing these networks. But our main challenge for the next few years is actually going to be a challenge where customers will need to pressure, and the community in general, just not customers, obviously will be a major part of it, we'll need to influence manufacturers to produce and to develop security into their components. It's very quickly going to become an issue that components are developed without security and are placed without security. Again, we've seen so many cases with cameras, with everything else, with baby headsets, sound systems that can be hacked into. And it's not acceptable for us as a community in general for those devices to be put on the market without having a proper security component attached to it. In order to kind of help that, we ourselves, beyond the services that we do provide, we are developing some products. Our star product is something that is on a POC basis right now in a major client. It's called Iot Sentry. It's a component that allows for detection and using AI technology, understands the environment, understands what communications occur between devices or occur between an IoT network, and from that learning understands what a possible attack is and has the necessary reaction mechanisms in order to either stop or to alert or to deal with the situation and learning from there and taking further steps to protect systems. So this is pretty much what I had for today. Any questions? But yeah, IoT is the future. It already is, it will be, and security is going to become a big issue in our perspective within the IoT world.
Okay. Thank you, Rui. We have a couple of questions. I would like to go back because we have a question that I think that you might help giving us your vision. Let me just go back and try to get the question. It was, sorry, I'm just looking for the question is, okay, with more IoT devices being part of our daily living condition, are there any concern for cybersecurity in place to protect it?
Yeah, I think I covered that, obviously. And again, the more they are, the worse it's going to get, because we all know criminals prefer mass numbers. So if you have like 1 or 2 devices, is it really worth it for them to kind of explore and to try to hack into? It's very much the old game. Why was Microsoft attacked over so many years and Apple not so much? Because Microsoft had millions of users and Apple had a couple of million. So the difference between mass usage and small usage obviously is a concern for the criminals, and they will attack where they have more of a community and more of a chance to be successful. So again, and the IoT system is exactly the same. There are more devices out there. Everybody nowadays, it's almost impossible to go to a store and not buy a smart TV, whether you have connected or not, but it's still a smart TV. Most people will connect it to the Wi-Fi. So obviously, over the last few years, the attack surface on the IoT devices have increased substantially. If you think just on TVs, on smart refrigerators, on cameras that people are placing, on the baby talkers that I described earlier. And this is just at a community device. Obviously, it was mentioned by a couple of the other speakers. At an industrial device, this progress has gone further tremendously also. And obviously, the more they are automated and the more that IoT becomes a major system within any industry, the more it will be appealing to hackers and to criminals to try to explore to their benefit.
Okay. We also have another question from Carlos Matos. Will IoT data integration be a challenge to the future? We see a big number of manufacturers, each one with different protocols. If we want to take advantage of data from gamifying in AI or gamification in AI, how can we approach this problem?
Sorry, Pankaj, I was on mute. I think I can take this one. Yeah, definitely. So data integration will be, it is already, but will continue to be an issue in the future. There is no agreement in terms of what is the standard protocol for integrating IoT data into these big platforms. So what we've seen is that there are many custom-made connectors to integrate this data into a more centralized platform that then builds a unique data model to be able to handle all of that information that comes somehow unstructured into a more structured way. That is the base point, the data warehousing and the data model that will then leverage the AI, gamification, and many other solutions that take insights from that data. So yeah, so definitely we'll be seeing more and more integration of projects coming in. Some of them will probably be the integration will probably be generic enough to aggregate large data sets, but there will always be some pieces of customized integrations that will have to be developed.
Mute again. Thank you very much, João. Thank you very much, Rui. And now let's continue to our next session about superpowers of IoT in the health industry. So welcome Nuno Santos, CTO from ViGIE, Mike Pemberton, and Deborah Haisman from Validair. Thank you very much for being with us now. And please, Nuno, can you take control? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Pankaj. And also thank you, Mike and Deborah, for being present on this webinar. Well, I will start the presentation speaking about the IoT in the healthcare. I will be focused on healthcare in facilities and equipment or assets, and not in patient monitoring, which is a different area, a wide area, also in healthcare, IoT in healthcare. In a building, in the facilities, we can measure a lot of different parameters inside the building. This is a representation in this slide about what we can measure. For example, temperature, relative humidity, carbon dioxide, chlorine in the water, energy consumptions, lot of different variables. Some equipment status also are important. Well, you name it. It's a lot of things. There's a lot of things we can and we must monitor to have visibility about what is going on in our building. Moving on to the why we monitor these parameters. I would say we have two areas of interest about monitoring in a healthcare building. One of them is for the clinical management, where we have the clinical staff interested about a lot of different parameters because they are responsible to make sure, for example, if the medicines, if the vaccines are in the proper condition. And also, I will speak in the next slide about from the facility management point of view. We have different parameters that is important for them to know how the building is behaving, if it is efficient. And well, starting with the clinical management, we have three areas, three topics here. One of them we can talk about the environmental condition of surgery rooms, for example, where we can measure temperature, relative humidity, airborne particles, differential pressure. There is a lot of different parameters which is important to make sure that the surgery room is in proper condition to be used. Such as different facilities as labs or, for example, an isolation room, which is very important now with the COVID, because we have to make sure that we have the isolation rooms in proper conditions, making sure that the pressure inside of the room is less than the outside, because with that we make sure that the air is not coming out of that room for the other rooms. What could be a problem because can be a danger for all of those people around. Also, in speaking about the indoor air quality, we have, for example, the rooms where the patients are, the patient rooms, also some waiting rooms where the patients are waiting to go to the doctor, for example. It's important to make sure that the air is with good quality because of, for example, the CO2. When we have a lot of CO2 in the air, it can be also a problem for the health of the people. And one of the most, moving to the last topic here, one of the most important concerns for the medical staff is about to measure all the cold chain in the hospital. We mean the freezers, cryopreservation, because they store medicines, they store blood, they store plasma, they store vaccines. Well, there is a lot of important and priceless things that they store in those equipment. And by monitoring with IoT, we can make sure that we are storing all of those things in the perfect conditions. And now moving to the facility management point of view, there is a lot of different parameters that are important for them. Of course, all of those that I show you for the clinical management, they are also important for the facilities managers, because in the end they are also responsible for the equipments, for for example, for the HVAC equipments that they have in facilities. But for example, they have a different view when we speak about the energy and medicinal gases consumption, for example, or water consumption, and also the water quality. And also it's also a mean to measure a lot of things, a lot of for example, digital outputs in equipment. From what they can say, they can know if the equipment is working well, if the equipment is sending some error, for example. So it's also available information for them to make sure that everything is working perfect in their facilities. And well, so we can, I think, in summary, we can explain how it works in a solution like this in a hospital. In fact, it's a general IoT solution. And I will go through all of these layers. Well, we have the sensor getting all of this data, reading, measuring everything from the things that I show you in last slides. Of course, all of this data had to be sent to data ingestion layer. It can use a lot of different communication protocols to send it to the cloud. For example, in this case, a cloud-based solution in this example. And then we can have some data processing functions to over those data. Of course, that the data has to be stored in some place. I can use different kind of databases or storage buckets, and this data will be a source for all the analytics that we can do for our users, the software users that can that have interest in the data that is being gathered by the sensors, and we can have it in a formal report, something like that, the graphics, and also all the other mystics that we can send regarding the data that we are gathering also gathering in storage in our servers. Of course, we have to have a way to access all of this data, and we have RESTful APIs in these kind of solutions that can be consumed by web applications, mobile applications, third-party systems, and that's it. Regarding, for example, and talking a little bit about what you can have in the future, regarding the analytics, for example, you can have a lot of different analysis that IoT can show us in terms of, for example, we have alarmistic regarding the data that we are receiving, and then and also with AI we can have predictions about the data that we will have in future, in next hours, in next days. And also it's a way that IoT is moving, IoT and AI are moving in the future. Well, moving to going back to the topic, the subject of this presentation. In summary, the superpowers of the IoT applied in healthcare, we can say that we have observability about any parameter of the interest in the building, as I show you in the first slide, which means visibility about how our building is, what's happening in our building. We can also say connectivity, because our building is connected to us and we can talk with him, and also the building can talk with us. This allow us to have data analysis and get valuable insights from the data that we are storing in the servers, in the systems, and also it can act as an important decision support tool, which allow us to take actions that can save money, can save people, that can save a lot of things, and allow us to make a smarter and efficient management of our facilities. So what are the key benefits of these superpowers? We can say that we have the safety of the patients and the healthcare professionals. Everyone wants to feel safe when we are in a hospital, for example, knowing that everything is okay with the building. We also have the benefit of cost savings, but by avoiding losses and problems, of course, caused by some incidents in power supply, for example. Also avoiding some operating errors that can be generating different errors values in the measures gathered by the sensors. We can also say compliance, because it brings us confidence about if the hospital managers are following the good practices in place in this industry, of course. And also it brings us a quality improvement in process, and also in the services provided, because we can make informed decisions about what we should do in different kind of situations, and that's it. I think it's the 4 important key benefits that we have from the superpowers, from the things that IoT can give us in healthcare building, in healthcare facilities. And well, I left the important part to the end of this presentation, a practical example, example of success with one of our partner. It's Validair, and we have here Mike and Deborah to speak about it. They are specialized in monitoring solutions, our partner in the UK, as I said, and they work with us since 2014. And I would like Mike and Deborah to talk a little bit about the benefits of using ViGIE system, which is an IoT system in healthcare. How we help them in helping its customers in the UK, and what are the main challenges with this. And now I will pass the word for Deborah and also for Mike to talk a little bit about their experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuno. Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to present to you today. Pleasure to be here. Certainly been some very interesting presentations so far. Just to give our point of view, we supply independent monitoring systems into the healthcare sector in the UK, and we've been working with ViGIE since 2014. So looking at the benefits of using ViGIE, certainly more and more of our customers are specifying cloud in their user requirement specifications, and the local wireless hardware integrated with cloud gives us a user-friendly, compliant and cost-effective option. It also enables all of our customers to have easy and quick access to their data, especially with the smartphone app. Having wireless sensors and transmitters makes the site installation faster and easier. ViGIE as a company have always been extremely responsive to our needs and have always developed improvements and responded rapidly to any issues. Our systems to date have been cost effective and so far proved cost competitive for customers against competitive systems. That's that for that sector. I think Mike's now going to talk on the next point.
Thank you, Deborah and Nuno. Yeah, so moving on to the next question, how an IoT system such as ViGIE has helped our customers in the UK. So essentially, the system helps our customers to remain compliant and in control and to maintain product and patient safety. You know, these are just all really core, critical requirements in this industry. The customers like the ViGIE interface because it's user-friendly and attractive. They like the built-in alerting options, which are email, SMS, text message, and the mobile app notifications. And also they like that they can get their rapid access to their data both through the web interface and the mobile application. So with regards to the question, what are the main challenges? Healthcare and pharmaceuticals are highly regulated and conservative industries. Their license to operate comes from government regulators who enforce the relevant standards, and they will remove the companies or institutions' license, you know, if they're not compliant. So it is really critical. And obviously, a lot of these companies and institutions are what we call strategic. You know, they're providing critical healthcare and products for the nation. You know, like vaccines, various medicines, etc. Wireless and cloud does not suit all customers. Many will insist on hardwired local monitoring and alerting and local data, which is obviously a more old-fashioned method of doing it, but it's proven and trusted. And this is what it's all about. It's all about trust, and you know, to change to something like IoT is about winning over these customers who are very set in their ways, and they can point to these regulatory requirements as being set in stone. And you know, we have to try and work on that to get them to understand the benefits. But with Pharma 4.0, we are seeing cloud options being considered more and more by our customers. So the tide is turning, but how far it will go, we have to see. More cloud solution competition are now present in the market over the last year or two, some of whom have clearly invested heavily. So therefore, whilst ViGIE was, I would say, an early cloud adopter, in the market with an almost unique selling point. Certainly back in 2014 when we started working with ViGIE. Fortunately, it's no longer the case. More competition is there. So this is proving we're seeing that exerting downward pressure on prices. So we need to be mindful of costs. Of course, we work on selling the advantages of the system, but many customers are really cost driven. It is the primary thing some of them will look at. Also, all of our customers expect significant validation and testing. This is another core requirement in healthcare and pharma. The solution has to be validatable and testable, which means we have to prove the system and all the aspects of it. We can't go over. They won't just take us at our word that it does what they want it to do. Tests have to be written. We have to prove those tests. And then lastly, because our monitoring systems are considered critical regulatory components, customers do expect robustness, reliability, resilience, data integrity and security. So it's important to ensure that all of these aspects are built in and that they're maintained for all time, really. So thank you. That's all that Deborah and I really had prepared. Short but hopefully informative. Thank you for listening. We're happy to take any questions, and I'll hand back to Nuno.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your comments and for sharing your experience with us, and also thank you, Deborah, for sharing your view also.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so thank you, Nuno. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Mike. So, do we have any questions? So we have one that was from before. All real-time applications are really dependent on the IoT in the coming era of IT. If it is, then what is the future of the simple application than real time? Who can take this one?
Well, I don't get what they are what meaning with the simple applications than real time, because, well, real time is a different approach. I really don't get what they mean with the simple applications. I don't know if Sajid is still there to explain.
Sajid, can you rephrase your question or help Nuno out? Are real-time really dependent on the IoT in the coming era of IT? If it is, then what is the future of simple application than real time?
My perspective, my understanding of the question is that simple applications is anything that deal with the IoT networks, but don't necessarily need to be in real time. So the way we're describing IoT networks is that everything is faster, everything is connected, everything is occurring at high speed and in real time in a lot of ways. The way I see it, the simple applications will continue. Obviously, you don't need real time for every single component. There are predictive components that simple applications can well handle being fed by the IoT devices and learning from what a normal aspect of a network or a normal component is in alerting for preventive actions or for other situations. I think real time will be used more and more, but it will be to alert failure, to alert security issues, to alert other components. So I think there's space for both. Real time will become easier to establish. It's not always easy to establish real time because of demands on bandwidth, on human intervention, on how systems react. But my opinion is that will be space for both, because yeah, real time will improve, but the simple applications are still there to maintain the day-to-day flow of things.
Okay, so guys, we are at the end of our webinar, the IoT of Tomorrow. Let me please thank you all for being present at this webinar. We will be having more in the near future. Please follow us on our social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We will have more interesting content to share and interesting thoughts to share with you. I would really like to thank all the attendees and all the speakers: João Cruz, Yuly Endo, Luis Lamela from Altice, Portugal, David Coutinho, Rui Carvalho, Nuno Santos, Deborah Haisman, and Mike Pemberton. Thank you, everyone, and it was my pleasure to be with you today. Cheers.
Good afternoon.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.